And welcome back to another chat with Corin. I'm here with a very special guest, my sister-in-law, Doreen.
Hello.
She is Molly's older sister. She is the elder, well, Freddie's really the elder statesman of the family. You're the elder woman of the family.
I am, yes.
Welcome to Corin's World.
Thank you.
Have you been watching the channel?
Absolutely. I'm obsessed with YouTube. I watch everything on there. So, of course, when you started your channel, I started watching.
Doreen is a big fan of, we'll get into Harry Potter, we'll get into other, like, are you into cartoony stuff? Like, what are some things, I know you're into, like, I don't know, what the hell are you other into?
So, like, Harry Potter is a big one. I used to be, like, into SpongeBob when I was in high school, but not really cartoons so much anymore. Marvel.
Okay.
Like, the Marvel movies, I'm really into those. What else?
I thought you were into, like, weird stuff, like dragons or anything
Oh, yeah.
like that.
I'm obsessed with How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay.
I love all the How to Train Your Dragon stuff.
Any, like, Pixar movies or anything
all
like
the
that?
Pixar movies.
Okay.
Toy Story.
So she's very, like...
Yes.
She's very, I guess, just, like, computer-oriented with, like, the whole video world. So, like, she was very interested in Kyle's content.
Yes.
So she would always listen to Kyle and Corin.
I did.
She's a very good fan, and she's very interesting and very eclectic.
Fangirled out a little bit at your wedding because he was there. So,
yeah, she's a big fan of Kyle's.
I'm so excited.
But first we can start and get into something that I just mentioned, being like the elder, I guess, statesman of your family, the second in line to Freddie, but the elder woman. So if you can give us a little background on what it's like being the oldest girl, let's say oldest child for sake of argument.
Sure.
And what that was like growing up with a lot of siblings, especially Molly. And were you protective with Molly? Were you not? With boys, this and that? How were you as an older sister? What type of person were you growing up?
So in the house, it was survival of the fittest. So Molly and I fought a lot, and Max would try to referee. Max was always trying to be the peacekeeper.
Max is there.
He's
Molly's older brother, Doreen's younger brother.
Yeah, he's between 2.5 years younger than me and a year older than Molly. So Max would kind of try to play peacekeeper between us, and it didn't always work out for him. Sometimes he did literally get hurt in the crosshairs when we'd be fighting. But Molly and I did not get along because I was the older one. So a lot of times it was like, oh, be the bigger person. You're the older sibling. Or like, oh, it's your younger sister, like, just let her do it. So, like, Molly used to like to sleep in my bed, and I didn't like it. But, like, it was like, oh, she's your little sister. Just let her sleep in your bed with you. And I was like, I want to sleep alone. And like, oh, just let her. And so, like, Molly would, like, sleep in my bed with me, and I kind of just had to, like, let her. And so, like, you know, that does, you know, when you're younger, like 10 and 11, that does cause some resentment.
Well, so speaking as a youngest child, I never knew what it was like to just be alone or not have you know, any other siblings. Do you have any memories of like maybe growing up and it like what's the age difference between?
Well, me and Max is 2.5, so I don't remember ever it being just me, but I was the only one with my own room until I went to college. So I used to just spend my time in my room because that was my space, and they weren't allowed in my room. Like, that was the one thing where I'd be like, they went in my room without asking, and like they would get in trouble, because that was one rule that like they weren't allowed to break concerning me, is like my room was my space and they weren't allowed in there. Meaning Molly, Taryn, Max, all of them.
Yeah.
Like, that was my space.
How many kids?
7.
7 kids, yeah.
So that was my space. And just like they all had, like, they had bunk beds and stuff, but like their bed or their closet or their dresser was their space. We all had our own areas that were ours, and you weren't allowed to like go into other people's areas without permission. But I did kind of like sometimes, because 7 kids is a lot of stuff. So 100%. I did sometimes like just like having my own space.
What type of kid were you? Like, were you into all like crazy, like, I don't know. I know you on the outside as very just like.
Well, you also know like the adult me too.
Yeah, but I know, like, I see you and your youngest brother Quincy very similar, which is just like outdoorsy and like no like okay or like insects and all this stuff. Not you.
So, I mean, I did work at summer camp, and I did, I enjoyed camping, but, like, and I enjoyed playing outside, but I also, like, I liked being like in my room and like doing crafts. Like I had like a microscope. I read a lot. Mm-hmm. I was kind of I don't know, because I remember when we went from 3 to 6 overnight.
Okay.
And I remember that very much.
Like
and
kids wise,
right? Because like, and it happened over a weekend. Like I went to bed on a Friday. I went to bed Saturday. Sunday morning, there were 3 more kids living in my house. Uh-huh. And I very clearly remember that. And so it was a lot to take in at 5 to like, I had all this attention. And then all of a sudden, like Otis was 2.5 and Taryn was only 18 months old and Fred was 15. And
how old were you? Well, just to put into reference, so your parents took in your cousins who are your brother and sister.
Yeah, now, they got guardianship of them. I grew up with them. I called them my brother and sisters.
Yeah. So how old were you when that happened?
I was 5.
Okay, so you sort of remember that.
I very clearly, it was like Easter weekend, or around that time, I have a very clear memory of like literally going to sleep one night and waking up the next morning and be like, oh, Fred, Taryn, and Otis are here. What's going on? Why are they here? And my mom being like, they're gonna live here now. And I was like, woohoo!
Yeah,
and
sure,
then
for a kid,
I was like super excited because they used to come and visit all the time. And then I was like, woo, they're gonna live here. This is awesome.
Well, yeah, that's got to be crazy from a kid's perspective, because you look at it as just like an extended play date. It's just like, oh wow, they get to live with me. But like then and this is stuff that I've started to discover as I've gotten older. Like my parents got divorced, and it was almost like they had a discussion with us that was like, we're not going to be living together anymore, this and that. And at that age, you're just like, oh, okay. So, like, it's crazy from your perspective, like, oh, wow, we're getting 3 more siblings.
Yeah.
But, like, can you imagine, like, the conversations your parents were having?
Oh, like hearing about it now.
Yeah, like, I speak to your dad about it, and he's opened up a little bit more. Like, have you ever gotten into that?
I have. I've talked to both of them several times about it over the past like 5 or 6 years, like since we've grown up. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy like how it happened and like everything that was involved, and it's my dad's sister's kids. And like he's got 3 brothers himself, and like how they ended up with us versus the other ones, because he's the second oldest in his family. And there's all this information and stuff that we learn now that we didn't know as kids. We just knew they came to stay with us because they couldn't stay with their mom.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. And even then, like, as a kid, it was like, oh, this is fun, this is fun, this is fun. And then it's like, oh, this is not changing. They're not leaving. They really are going to be here forever. And then, like, you get less and less of your parents' attention, not because they don't want to give it to you, but because there's more kids who need it. And especially, like, we took in, like, Taryn was the same age Nix is now. Mm-hmm. You know, not potty trained, a baby, still in diapers, like, you know, talking. And like Otis was 2.5 and Molly was 18 months and Max was 2.5. So now we have like 4 kids under 5 years old and a 5-year-old. Yeah. And then a 15-year-old teenager, and teenagers are like a whole, you'll learn, teenagers are a whole thing on their own. So
I'm curious,
it's really interesting how my parents did that.
Yeah. And I'm curious, like, as kids, because like I said, I started having discussions with my brother and sister as we got older, and like started, you know, peeling back more layers to things and figuring stuff out. Like being the older sister, like, did you ever like have a conversation with Taryn or like your sisters or Molly or something like that? Like, just
I've talked to Max. I talked to Max about it a lot because Max and I were really close when we were. I mean, we're still super close. Yeah, but Max and I, we're ridiculously close, which was something I learned. Not all families are like as I got older.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys have fight. You know,
a lot, but it's never like, I'm never going to talk to you again. Yeah, it's never like that. But so Max and I talked about it a lot, like when we were in high school and stuff, and I've talked to Otis about it. I haven't like talked to Taryn about it. I have talked to her a little bit. But I don't think she likes talking about it. She also doesn't, she was a baby, so she doesn't have a lot of memories about it. Fred has a lot, so I've talked to like Fred and Otis because they remember a little bit. They have a little more like emotion behind it. With Taryn, she didn't really know anything outside of our house, so it's different for her.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I don't mean to put you on the spot with that or anything like that. Like, it's something that I know I've spoken to your father about, and something that I'm sure other kids out there listening, or other parents, adults, or whatever, have to come across this issue of being thrown into a situation where they're not ready for, whether it's just like a child on its own and like having to figure that out, or like in your position being an older sister, and if you had conversations about it or whatnot, like, it's something that is always interested me because, like I said, with my parents and their divorce, as I got older, I started asking more questions. You learn more things and you figure more things out. And it's something that you've mentioned to Molly and me, and like one day you eventually want to have kids. But you even started bringing up the discussion of, you know, if adoption was a possibility for you or something like that. So it's like you're more, you know, privy to that information a little bit more. And you might be more open to it because you were in a situation similar to something like that happening.
I think I definitely am. I've never not thought that Taryn, Otis, and Fred weren't my siblings. Yeah. I've always been like, no, they're my brothers and my sister. Like, so the idea of adoption to me has never been like, oh yeah, I would definitely like take in a kid. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have to like. Oh, so you're saying that adoption to you isn't like the non-family side of it, because they're family. Like they are, yeah, but I never like. But even though they're family, I was never like, oh, they're my cousins, but they live with us. I was always like, they're my brother and my sister. Yeah. So I don't see like with adoption, like it's still a choice. Like whether you choose to have a baby or I choose to adopt a baby, I'm still choosing to have a child. Yeah. No matter, just because the child isn't biologically mine wouldn't make it less my child. In my eyes, that's how I view it. Yeah. What was your relationship with? Did you feel you had any better relationship with any of your siblings? You said you were a little bit closer to Max. What did you feel because he was a little bit closer to your age that you might have had a better relationship with him, or were you all just fairly? I think some of it was like, well, Max and I never really had a sort of like contentious relationship. Mm-hmm. I kind of felt like. This is not true at all. Like, I 100% know this is not true. But when I was a little kid, I felt like I was always competing with Molly for my parents' love and affection. Yeah. Whereas, like, Max and I didn't. Like, I feel like I didn't have to fight Max for my parents' love and affection. Which is interesting because I feel like, and this is something I brought up, I don't know, on another podcast. And sorry if I'm interrupting you. No, you're fine. Okay. I feel like that's a girl versus boy thing. Yes, no, I do think I think that was a lot. I think it's because she was a girl and I and not even just you and Molly. I think that's just girls in general have this like competitive girl nature, which guys might have it, and maybe I'm just being naive, but don't like care as much. Right. Like, is that something you agree with? I do agree with that because like I always joke with my mom, like I read all the American Girl books that were out at my age. So I read all the series and all of them, and all I wanted was American Girl doll. And then like Molly got 2 and I never got any. And I still bring it up to my mom to this day. I'm like, oh, like that Emma, time. Why did you do that? I like that time Molly and Taryn both got American Girl dolls but never read the books. And my mom's always like, oh, well, you know. And I'm like I joke, I'm like, I don't want one now, obviously, but like it's things like that. Like that was a toy that I wanted and they got. Uh-huh. And so like I don't blame my parents. Like situations are different. Like they might not have had the money to get it when I was the age to get one, and I get that. But like little Doreen, who was 10 years old, was like heartbroken by that. And then it's like, oh, I'm so mad at them. Like they got the toy I want. Whereas like Max never wanted an American Girl doll, so it's like Max. But whereas if Max got like if he got a Superman doll or something, you would probably still be upset that he got a doll. I was mad whenever we played Ninja Turtles and I had to be April because I always wanted to be Leonardo. April was who? April O'Neil. I don't even know April. She's the girl in Ninja Turtles, the yellow jacket. She always wore the yellow jumpsuit, and I always had to be the girl whenever we would play Ninja Turtles. I never got to be a Ninja Turtle. Yeah. But no, yeah, like I would want like they had like cool like Ninja Turtle things, and I would want those and like the ghost. But we would use them together because like Ninja Turtles are a pack, and there was only 2 of them, so they needed us. And Ghostbusters were a pack, so like we were all in on that. I was never like I was into Barbies for a little bit, but. What was it about the American Dream doll that like, the American Girl doll? American Girl. So they had and educate me. They had books and a doll. So it's a book series, and each girl has their own series of about 8 books. So there was like Samantha and Addie, and there was one named Molly, and each of them is an era in American history. So like Addie is a slave, and like in the first book she's escaping from slavery, and then like you follow her as she like lives in New York in freedom, and like her family joins her and that kind of stuff, and then Molly's during the World War II, like Great Depression era, and you just follow their life and like how they live. And there was like a Dutch girl, Heidi, I think, who's like an immigrant who comes in like the 16 or 1700s, and Samantha's like the early 1800s, and you just follow their life through different eras of American history. But they're like 8, 9, 10-year-old girls. So like you read it
you
when
can
you're
relate to them too, or something.
Right.
Like
so
that.
It's kind of like seeing how your life would be like if you were alive in that period and that age. And they had like a magazine, but you could get a doll for each book.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also came out with like now they have like a Native American doll. They have one who's in the 60s and one who's in the 70s. Like they've expanded the series.
Yeah, I think they came out with like a Hillary Clinton
I think
version
so.
book
Yeah,
or something
and
like that.
they had dolls too where you could like send in a picture and they would make the doll that looks like you. And Molly has that one.
Wow.
When I was living here for a little bit, between China and Korea, we would take the doll and like put it in creep places in the house to like creep each other out because it's pretty creepy because it's like a tiny like
that's pretty
doll
creepy.
that looks just like Molly.
Yeah, I get. My sister had a Rosie O'Donnell like little doll like that.
Mm-hmm.
That for some reason I really liked the doll. I don't know. It was like
Interesting.
cool just seeing Rosie O'Donnell as like a miniature doll. And like the same thing, they had like the WWF pillows. They had like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. But with the American girl dolls and books, so you worked your way to become like in education,
right?
Do you think those books? So you were a teacher for how long? So I'm fast forwarding a little bit.
Okay, yeah, we can fast forward. Yeah.
So you were an education teacher for social studies?
Yep, I was a high school history teacher for 3 years.
Okay, and that's what you went to college for, right?
That is what I graduated. My degree from Cortland.
SUNY Cortland, shout out.
Woo woo, Red Dragons. My degree from SUNY Cortland was adolescent education social studies. Yes.
Okay.
That's what I have. I still have my permanent teaching license in that, yeah.
And so as a kid, did all those novels sort of like guide you in that direction of like...
They definitely fed
history?
my love of history, yes. Okay. I do love, like, historical fiction's my favorite genre to read.
What is it about, like, is it just American history that you're interested in?
I actually tend to steer away from American history. Okay. I find it boring. Mm-hmm. I love European history.
Okay.
I like 1800s up to like early 1900s. Like I kind of stop once World War II and the starts. I like everything.
Well, because then U.S. gets involved.
Yeah, and then I'm like, I don't care about you. Like, go away.
So how were you finding out about those things? Are you watching History Channel? Are you like just randomly looking up stuff online?
I had a TV in my bedroom with cable, which I do not suggest for any child.
Yeah.
Got it when I was 7. Had it forever. Watching full cable setup. Watched MTV way before I should have. Was super into Spring Break when I was in like 6th grade.
Yeah.
I used to watch like the History Channel like all the time. I love like Turner Classic Movies. Mm-hmm. I watch like all those classic movies that take place and like they're black and white and all those. And then I read all the American history books, and when I started, I didn't really like reading for like pleasure or leisure time until I was in high school, but I started with like historical fiction books was what I liked reading.
And you went to a different high school.
I did, yeah. My mom and Molly and I were talking about this.
An all-girls school?
I did. It was an all-girls school.
And what was how did that
It was happen? Not my choice.
Okay.
I had a learning disability, and at the time, the public school in our district did not want to recognize that I had it, and they didn't want to test me for it. And I took this standardized test in 4th grade and just like bombed it. And my mom was like, are you going to test her now? Like, she just failed this writing test. She cannot write. She can barely read. She's in 4th grade. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, we think she'll figure it out. And she's like, cool, we're leaving.
Well, let me ask you something, because do you think, because I think I had the same thing, and maybe I am a slow learner, I'm not the best student, but I feel like I can get by. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was in maybe 3rd or 4th grade, like going to a special teacher, like psychologist, who like was supposed to diagnose me with like this, like, yeah, he is a slower learner or something like that. I feel like the way we live now, everyone has a slow learning disability or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, like, do you agree that like you were a slow learner, or maybe you just learned differently? Like,
I do think that I don't I do think I legitimately had a learning disability.
Okay. Is 4th grade too young to be asking that question if someone has a learning disability?
4th grade is too late.
Oh, really?
Depending on the disability. So I teach 1st grade now. I start noticing it in kids now. If you're getting to the end of 1st grade and you're still struggling to write a sentence, your teacher should take notice.
But can like that translate to something else? Like what if that...
It can, yeah. No, it could be... There's so many things it could be.
Yeah.
But if no one takes notice at the root of the problem, if they're just... Like I had students who... Or I had a student this year who like even in 1st grade and just like was writing like C's and S's backwards.
Okay.
I could have just let it go. Mm-hmm. Like some teachers might see that and just be like, oh... We'll just keep working on it. We'll put the lettership on his desk and show him to like check his work. But I was like, I think there might be something more there. And they won't diagnose. Like 1st grade's too young to diagnose. But at least like I can put it in writing that like, hey, I noticed this. Like keep an eye on this in 2nd grade. And like as they move through the grades, if it's not getting better, then they can be like, okay, it's 3rd grade. He's still doing this. We should maybe get him looked at or evaluated. And I think the way, like when we were in school, the way learning disabilities are approached is not the same. Like when we were in school, it was like your ADD, your ADHD, or your dyslexic. Yeah. Like that's, or, you know, or it's something more extreme and you got pulled out. Yeah, like there wasn't a lot of choices. Yeah. Whereas now there's so many things to look at, and so many different areas that you can go into and it's so mainstream now. That it's not like a kid's gonna be specialized or pulled out, or like they might like go work with like a reading specialist, but they're not gonna be labeled special ed. Yeah.
Do you feel that it was did you notice a difference going to the new school you went to? Like what was the difference in...
Well, I went to remedial reading classes all the way through high school.
So what is that exactly?
I didn't take a foreign language. I got pulled out to learn like reading strategies and ways to approach reading and writing. Okay. I had a teacher in 7th grade who took special interest in me and took it upon herself to work on my writing.
So now, you said if you notice it at a young age, being a teacher as you are, a 1st grade teacher? Yeah. Okay. And we'll get into a little bit more because you have an interesting story of going abroad teaching, but you also did teach in the New York City school systems. I did. Yeah. How at 1st grade can you what's the word I'm looking for? Like make sure that message is getting sent along to their 2nd grade teacher, to their 3rd grade teacher, if you do spot a problem early in a kid.
Well, I know at least in my school, and again,
this is here in New York City?
No, this is in like my international school.
Okay.
And again, everything I say is like just my opinion. Like I don't know for
of
sure.
Course.
But we and most kids, I feel like most kids get this in the year, but like parents get a report of how the kid is doing. Yeah. And you write down what they've mastered, what they haven't mastered, what they're working on, what they're struggling with, and in there the teacher can put a note. Yeah. So like my kids move up to the next grade with a whole file from me on like how they're doing their reading, how they're doing their writing, how they're doing in math, like and everything, and I put notes on like what kids, like things that I've noticed. Or things they're struggling with.
Okay. So let's take it a couple steps back. So you graduate high school, go to college, and you become... Right out of college, you became a teacher
I got hired by New York City before I graduated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I got hired in March, and I graduated in May.
That's impressive and cool. I mean, like, so... I know New York City teachers now that, like, they can't wait to get out of there. And I'm sure when you first got hired, was it almost just like you were over the world, ready to become a teacher?
Yeah. I thought I was going to move to New York City and live there for the rest of my life.
And, like, so what was your experience like as a teacher in New York City?
I taught in the South Bronx. We were a Title I school, which means...
If you're not from New York and don't know about the South Bronx, like... South Bronx is a rough area. I mean, like, but it's also a great area too.
I liked it. Yeah, it wasn't bad. However, I will say if we stayed past 8 o'clock doing work, the security guard would walk us to the bus and wait till the bus got there.
Yeah, so it's like it's rough, and kids they're tough.
They're tough.
Can you also notice that they're just like savvy. They know, like, because they've been through so much more than, I don't know, I haven't seen youth kids at other schools in other states, but I feel like New York City kids almost have this swagger of, like, they know how to use the trains, they know how to get around, they know how to, like, avoid a homeless person and, like, avoid confrontation or, like, be in the confrontation.
It's interesting, though, because it's, like, a weird mixture of savvy, but also extreme, like, naivety. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. Because, like, they're so street smart to a sense. Like, keeping themselves safe, getting to and from school. But you're also, like I taught freshmen and I taught seniors. And I always said I taught the biggest babies in the school because I got the new ones coming in and I got the ones leaving who are, like, clinging to that, like, people love me and they don't, like, they're going to help me. So I always said that. And it's, like, I would get the freshmen who are, like sexually active and all this, like, know how to, like, do so much stuff, like take the train and, like, they pick up their little siblings and from daycare and all this stuff. But then, like, I had to show them how, like, the locks worked on their lockers. Yeah.
Or just basic things of, like, I mean, like, probably stop talking in class. Like, just like, hey, we have a class to run. Can you sort of just sit down for a half an hour and just not interrupt?
Or, like, I had to explain to a freshman once. He was like, I don't understand why I'm failing. And I was like, you've never you've never taken a test and you haven't handed in a single homework assignment all semester. And he's like, but I come to class. And I was like, but I have nothing. I was like, but participation's only 10% of your grade. I was like, I love that you come to class. I go, but you sit there and you mouth off to me and you talk the whole time and you don't do anything. Like, I've never seen you with a pen in your hand. I was like, I try with you. And he's like, I don't understand. I still don't get why I'm failing this. And I was like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Do you sort of have to take all of that extra stuff into account as a teacher?
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
The environment that you're in, the situation that the kid may be in or something like that? And how do you deal with that?
Every child's different. Yeah. I approach every student, like, they all need to learn. They all have essentially, like, a checklist of what they need to learn when they're in my class. Everyone needs to learn it. Everyone's going to learn it differently, and some of them are going to be on a different timeline. I had a student when I taught high school, since we're talking about when I was in New York City, I had a kid who would miss my class every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because it was the last period of the day because he had to go get his brother. And I was like, technically I was supposed to, like, deduct points from him for skipping class, but I was like, I've talked to his mom about it. Like, I know where he is. Yeah. Like, I give him the word. I'm like, so I would give him the notes. I'd be like, all right, every Tuesday and Thursday, I'd be like, here are the notes. And I would give him the notes, and he would study, and he would give me the homework assignments that he missed. And, like, he made up the work, but I had to alter my class to fit his schedule because that's what worked for their family.
Yeah. I think that's awesome that you do that. I think that's what needs to be done on, like, a higher level, too, is just, like, that compromising and seeing like other people's sides of things too. Yeah. Like, obviously, if you were to follow that kid and you found out he was going to, like, a deli or something like that and just messing around with his friends,
that's different. But you get kids like that too, and, like, and you don't make exceptions for those kids.
Yeah, and that's why. Yeah, I think that's great that you did that. Yeah. So what eventually burnt you out with New York City teaching?
Administration.
Okay.
New York City, at least in my experience, this is almost 10 years ago now. Actually, no, this is 10 years. Yeah, this is about 10 years ago now. New York City was very much run like a business, and this was under Bloomberg, who was like, I'm going to be the education teacher, and I'm going to push out bad teachers. And so admin was like, it was all numbers, and I was like, they're kids, not numbers. And I taught seniors, and they wanted me to pass kids who weren't doing work or weren't meeting, like, those kids who would cut class to go to the deli, or, like, everything for seniors was in class. We didn't give them anything to do outside of class because we knew they weren't going to do it. So, like, I had kids who, like, we'd work on an in-class project for, like, a month and a half, and, like, I'd be like, I'm not moving the deadline for you. You're going to college in 3 months. Like, this won't happen. Like, you need to start seeing how the world's going to work outside of this school. Yeah. And admin would be like, oh, they're on the volleyball team, you have to take the project.
So what exactly would those conversations be? They'd legit just, like, you have to pass every kid in your class?
Not every kid, but, like if a certain kid, they'd be like, oh, well, he's a senior, and, you know, because it was government, it's a class you have to pass to graduate. And they'd be like, he's a senior, and he's on the volleyball team, and just give him this makeup assignment. And I'd be like, no. And they're like, well, I'm telling you, you have to. And I was like, I'd be like, I understand you're telling me you have to, so I have to do it. I go, but I want you to know on record that I do not agree with this.
Yeah. How did you feel the curriculum was like teaching our history?
I taught world history.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was more.
It was. So I taught. So New York State. I don't know. I heard it's changing, so I don't know this is how it still was. But when I taught, you had Global 1 and Global 2.
Okay.
And Global 1 is like prehistory up until like the Renaissance.
So something I want to ask you, and we're going to get into your international teachings a little bit too, and you don't teach sort of global history on an international level. So
no, I don't.
I'd be curious. I don't know if you've ever walked into any classrooms to see what they're teaching compared to what we're teaching here, because there's obviously two different sides to stories.
It's very true, but I actually did teach a government class, a high school government class at my international school last year, because they needed something happened with scheduling and teachers, and they needed someone to teach a government class, and I was the only one with a spot in my schedule and the license to teach it. And
did you see a difference in like history, on like a different way something was presented or something like that?
It's not from the teaching perspective, because all the teachers at my school are American, but from the student perspective. Like, their opinions were very different than what I encountered when I taught here. Which is, I'm sure, stuff that happens here in the States, too. I mean, like, schools in the South, I mean, like, while they could be getting taught the same things, those kids' parents might be telling them something different, too. So it's like you're telling them something that happened with the Civil War. Their teachers could be telling them something different. The teachers, too. I mean... Education is regulated state to state. Yeah, which is wild to me. Yeah, that's crazy. So teaching finished, and then you went to culinary school? I got let go. Okay, you got let go. They didn't want to give me tenure, so they let me go. Okay. Got let go. And then you got into the restaurant industry, right? I did. I pulled kind of a like, F this, like, maybe I'm not meant to teach. Because when I graduated high school, I was devastated. I'd gone to school for 4 years. I loved teaching. I was convinced this is what I was supposed to do for the rest of my life. And I spent 3 years being told I wasn't good at it and I had picked the wrong career. I'm in my master's, getting my master's for my teaching license in history, paying off school loans, actively being told 4 or 5 times a semester by my admin that I was not made to do this. So you couldn't make a connection like, hey, admin sucks, like, I did not. I could not make that connection, and I love my dad, and he's great, but he had instilled in me, and I don't know if he meant to do this, but I just got this belief that, like, respect your elders, they're gonna look out for you. I was the youngest teacher in my school by a lot. Yeah. I was 22 years old when I started teaching. The next oldest teacher was like 30. Yeah. I had young. Teachers who had students who had graduated and came back to visit and were older than me. I literally had a teacher in the lounge, we'd be in there, and I'd like say something, I'd be like, oh, well, and I'd give my opinion, she'd be like, you're just a fetus, no one cares. Like, they would like call me the fetus, because I was so young. My students were like 2 years younger than me. I was so young. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, growing up in upstate New York and going to Cortland is so different than living in New York City and like teaching there and being on your own for the first time. So I was so like sheltered in somewhat of a sense, and so I got there and I was like, oh, admin's here to help me, like, I'm a teacher, we're all on the same team. And I didn't know that that's not how it works. That's not how the world works. So if you could look at yourself now as that young New York City teacher, would you change anything? Would you tell yourself, like, don't listen to what the fuck they're saying? Like, I'm still just going to teach my thing. Wouldn't, because one of my admin actually told me that I probably should have been in elementary education. And that's what you are now. And that's what I'm in. And I could not be happier. So, yeah. She was right. Yeah, everything, like, works out. I think you're great with kids. I think you have, like, a bubbly personality that kids, like can relate to and they vibe with. You know? Spirit animal is Miss Frizzle. Yes, I love Miss Frizzle. I love it. So you got let go from the teaching and you did go into the food industry for a while. So when I went to high school, when I graduated high school, I was torn between going to Portland, going to school to study history, which is ultimately how I got into teaching because I wanted to study history, but there's no money in that. Or go to culinary school. And I actually applied to the Culinary Institute, like the big school that you go to for 4 years. I decided to go with the history teaching because I was like, I don't want to cook for people. That's too stressful. Well, I was like, oh, well, apparently I can't teach. So let's go with plan B. So I went to culinary school. I went to the Institute of Culinary Education, ICE.
Is that in New York City?
It is. It's down on it's in Chelsea, right down there. So I went there. I did a 9-month program, and I went full time from like 8 to 8 Saturday and Sunday. And I did that for 9 months, and then I did an internship with Charlie Palmer at his restaurant right off of 42nd Street for 4 months. And then I worked at West on West 86th Street in Amsterdam for a year and a half. Well, almost 2 years. And
how was that, like, switching over to that industry from being a teacher? Like, how was that?
At first, it was great. It was nice to have a job that when I went home at the end of the day, I couldn't take my job. You can't take your job with you.
Yeah.
If you're working in a restaurant and you wait table, like whether you're doing front of the house or back of the house, when your shift is done, your shift is done.
Yeah.
Like you can't, like whether it was a good shift, bad shift, whatever, like the next day is a brand new day. It's always every day you start over.
Yeah.
So it was nice having a job that I couldn't take home with me because like I was working all the time when I was teaching. Grading papers, all that stuff. So it was nice. And then after about a year of being in the restaurant, so this is about 2 years after not teaching, about a year of being in the restaurant, I was like, I think I miss teaching. And I started to like dabble with the idea of going back. And then one day someone started to curse me out of a broken egg yolk. And I was like, I'm too smart for this.
And that's something I want to ask you is like, did the restaurant give you sort of that New York City experience interacting with New Yorkers, like that backbone that like you sort of built up a little bit of courage?
Yes, it also gave me that survival mentality because...
Something you were lacking like with teachers because you were like, as a teacher because you were hearing from administration, all this stuff. And it's sort of like...
Right. And it's like, even though it's a restaurant and everyone sort of kind of works together and like someone might jump in and help you, your station is your station. And if it goes down,
I've been
it's
in
your
a kitchen
fault.
And I don't ever want to be around a chef in a kitchen because being in a kitchen is just ruthless. And I can't imagine what it's like at a busy restaurant when people got to get their shit. Like,
oh, I had the worst language when I worked at a restaurant. It was awful. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Because you're just cursing and screaming all the time.
It seems high pressure and high strain.
It's like you're only super stressed out during service, but it is the most stressed I've ever been for 2 hours. Because you have tickets and like the waiters are yelling at you and your chef is yelling at you and the other stations and it's hot and you're sweaty and you're like rushing and you're all over the place, but you just get it done. It's like you just have to do it. So I definitely appreciate I wouldn't go back and do it. I appreciate the experience of having done it because it definitely gave me this whole like, as bad as it gets, it's always going to get better. There's always going to be a way out of it. You will find a way to figure something. You just have to. So I definitely I've become I feel like I've reached like the lowest parts of my life. So even on like a bad day, I'm like, could be worse.
Yeah.
Oh, my phone, I dropped it in water. Could be worse.
Yeah.
You know, like there's always something worse that could happen. So, like, it's not worth stressing out over the little things because I've been that stressed before and I didn't like it and I don't want to be it again. So I just try not to stress things out too much.
Yeah, no, that's a good mentality to have.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be rewarding. Like school, it's got to be tough. And as a teacher, because, like, it may take years before a kid maybe sends you a text and it's like, hey, Miss Doreen, like, I got, whatever, I'm the head of my president at a sorority or something. And then you go like, wow, like this was 5 years in the making.
Yeah.
But at a restaurant, it's like you're grinding the whole night, and then at the end of like the night at like 9:30, you see the last couple tables sitting down with their plates, and it's just like everything's done being cooked, and you're like, wow,
it's nice.
Like. But then it builds back up the next night.
And then the next day it goes again,
But that's life in general, and it's like a microcosm of it working at the restaurant.
It is. It's like but it's like a pressure cooker version. It's like a compressed under pressure Yeah, exactly. But it was really cool too, because like Chris North shook my hand and like I made him dessert, like a meal, and he said that I cooked really good. Like Dr. Ruth, the like sex doctor, like told me my like ravioli was amazing. Like I cooked for Ben Stiller and like we had like Conan O'Brien, like we had celebrities who came through our restaurant and I cooked for them. So like it's a cool experience to
100%,
have.
yeah. I remember
yeah, it was
we
definitely
went
a cool experience.
Visited you at one of your restaurants and
yeah.
like just seeing you behind the counter, like doing your thing, like, and then came over to the table. I think we got a free dessert from you, so
Probably,
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Is something that's cool. It's a nice notch on your belt to know that you worked at a New York City fine dining restaurant. So then you had the decision to pack up, and you just went abroad.
Well, so I wanted to get back into teaching, but I'd kind of been scarred by teaching in New York, so I didn't want to teach in New York State anymore because, like, New York City is just a part of the bigger system. So I was like, I don't want to teach in this system. I need to get away from it. And I was like, I could try Jersey. I looked at a couple schools in Jersey. I wasn't super impressed. So I was like, all right, I'm either moving to another state, but I lived abroad when I was in college. I did a semester in London.
And didn't you live in Israel, or did you just travel?
I did a summer semester in Israel with my master's. So I'd done 2 semesters abroad and got bit by the travel bug like hard. Yeah. So I was like, I could live in another state, or I could just move to another country. And at the time, well, she's still there, but my best friend Patty had been teaching in Korea for like 3 years. And
sorry to interrupt. As a kid, were you ever interested in traveling to all these places that you learned about in world history and all that stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was.
Okay.
I went to Corin and immediately was like, what's the study abroad situation?
Nice.
That was like my second question when I like applied to that school. Mm-hmm. Because we traveled a lot as kids, but like
Not internationally,
but we road tripped and stuff.
Yeah, so you saw different places. Yeah. Met different people.
So and I went on a Caribbean cruise with my grandparents in 3rd grade. So we had done that.
Sorry, so you had your friend who lived in Korea.
Yeah, so my friend Patty, who has known me my entire life, she was living in Korea, and so I was like, I messaged her and was like, I'm coming to Korea, and she's like, yes, do it, I'm gonna help you. And from the time I made the decision to go abroad to the time I got on a plane to Korea was 6 months.
Wow. And were you nervous? Did you think of any of the consequences?
I was so nervous. I had like $100 in my bank account,
and like,
and I got on a plane to another country.
How did you manage that? Like, how did you do that? Like, I see it as like, it's crazy to see the New York City teacher like, hey, like this principal is telling me that I'm not a good teacher and sort of like broken down.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, there's this girl who like just left the restaurant business, like, I'm gonna go live in a different country with $100 in my pocket and just go do that. Like, that seems like such a different dynamic. Like, how did you purge?
Well, in between, I worked in a restaurant where I literally got in like screaming, like cursing people on the line.
Yeah.
Like I was the only woman at my restaurant when I started there. And like, I don't know if anyone knows anything about the restaurant business, but that back of the house, it gets rough. It can be rough. And like, so I had to like hold my own. I couldn't be that like meek, like, oh, someone's gonna like help me. Like, I'll look to someone to like stand up for me. I just stand up for myself. Mm-hmm. And so in doing that, like if I wanted to be heard, I had to make sure I was heard. And in doing that, it kind of like made me braver. Mm-hmm. And then also I lived with Molly. Yeah. You can't live with Molly and be like weak. She just won't allow it.
Did you have...
Not like in a bad way. Like, she's just so strong and independent that I was like, if she... Like, she graduated college and moved in with me in, like, Harlem, like, the next day.
Yeah.
So, I was like, she found a job immediately. Like, she did all this stuff. And so, like, I was like, if she can do this at 21, I can do it at 26.
Yeah. Your decision at 26 to live abroad was...
Yeah.
So, Molly played a part in that decision, like... You can give her some credit.
No, I was going to say,
subconsciously
like,
or
Molly,
not, like...
I think she did play a part in that. I do think just, like, I am the older sibling, but for a while I looked up to her. Mm-hmm. She just, like, she really, like, I don't know, she just was kind of amazing after she graduated college. Like, yeah, she was just working retail at Nordstrom, but, like, she was there for, like, a couple months and was like, I'm going to get into the management program, and, like, I'm going to do this, and, like, she just kept moving up, and she was, like, killing it, and, like... She just, like, was making stuff work and getting stuff done. And, like, she was just very, very strong. Very, like, and that's kind of how, it, like, the way it was with our parents by the time she was in college, she did have to do a lot for herself. Because that's just where they were in their lives that, like, I was the one who would, like, roll through town and be like, let me take you grocery shopping, like, let me, like, here's, what do you want for Christmas? $200. You want me to buy you a present? Oh, here's some money. Like, so like, and that's just, you know, things happen in life, whatever. But like, so I think it made her more independent and strong and that kind of stuff. And so like, I looked up to her for a while because, yeah, I moved to New York City after college, but I lived with my aunt and then I lived with my grandma. So I was in the city for almost 3 years before I lived on my own. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I kind of looked up to Molly and like saw her doing all these great things and taking all these big steps and that kind of like, and then also working in the kitchen. So I think I just like personality wise, like I was living on my own, working in the kitchens, living with Molly, and it all kind of worked together to just make me kind of centered and stronger and be like, I can do this. I can stand on my own feet. I can make my own choices and do what I want.
Yeah.
And
which you absolutely did. And then, so talk about the experience. So Korea was the first country you went to?
Yes, Korea. I lived in Korea for 4 years.
Okay, so talk about that experience a little bit. Talk about like being a teacher there and not knowing the language. Like, what the hell was your first like what did you do when you first got there?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I would have did. When I visited my sister abroad, I'd try to find the closest McDonald's. So I don't know like, what was the first thing you did when you got to Korea?
The first thing I did when I got to Korea is, so my school paid for my ticket in my apartment, so someone picked me up at the airport, which helps. It's nice that like it's not like I just flew there and had to like figure out how to get places. Like someone picked me up at the airport, took me to my house, like they got me all settled. And it was my school's like last day of the semester, so they were going to like dinner. So they picked me up, took me to dinner.
Oh, nice.
So I went to like a traditional Korean restaurant where you have to like sit on the floor, and like they were all like, "Oh my gosh, you can eat with chopsticks," and I was like, "Yes." But yeah, so I did that, and then
and these were all people who spoke English too, right?
Yes. Okay. So my school was a Canadian school. Okay. It was a Canadian kindergarten called Maple Bear, and so all the teachers were either American or Canadian. And so everyone spoke English. I know a lot of Canadians through that school. And I worked for them for 2 years. But yeah, so they picked me up. It was a Friday. I went to dinner that night. That weekend I stayed in my hotel and I like wandered around the neighborhood a little bit, went out and got meals. And then Monday I started work. So I went into work at like 8 a.m. and did trainings and all this stuff. And then started working right away. And
you were an elementary school teacher.
I was a kindergarten teacher.
Kindergarten teacher. For Korean kids who were trying to learn English?
Yes, so it was a Canadian kindergarten curriculum in English to Korean kids.
And what was that like?
It was crazy because my kids were 4 when I first got them. They were 4 and a half, so like I had to grow up like Peter Pants every day. That was not fun. But yeah, so it was like you just start on letter A. Start with the color red. Start with the number 1 and just go through all of it. And by the time they'd leave, they could usually read and they'd go to their next class.
I feel like that can almost be easier than picking them up at a later age because it's still that clean slate a little bit where they're learning.
Yeah.
And did you find that they were interested in learning English?
They were. They liked it. It's a lot of, when they're that young, it's a lot of play-based learning. Yeah. So we did a lot of like songs and dances and coloring and crafts but we did like math and that kind of stuff. But it was fun. I don't think I would go back to kindergarten voluntarily.
Is it more like babysitting?
It's a little preschooly for me. I don't mind it, but I don't like it. And like, which is weird because like first grade's my favorite as far as elementary. Like I love, if I could teach first grade for the rest of my teaching career, I'd be perfectly happy. And it's like, oh, it's only 1 year, but it's a big difference academically. And so I taught there for 2 years, and it was crazy. It's this type of school called like a hagwon, so it's like privately owned, and it's not like a school, it's like an after school. So it was interesting. It was a good way to like get into Korea. And then I went from there to a private elementary school, which was 1st through 6th grade. And I taught there, and this was an American curriculum taught in English to all Korean kids. Okay. But it was more of like a bilingual school, so they got half their lessons and half their day was in English, half their day was in Korean, and I was the English half of their day. And so like I still taught all the subjects, so like math, science, reading, writing, social studies, just in English.
What did you learn about like Korean people living there, like that was different from coming straight out of New York City, or upstate New York, or just the U.S. in general?
Yeah.
Did you notice anything that was drastically different?
Like,
good and bad?
They're much quieter.
Okay.
They're much more conservative, just in, like, everything. So when I first got there, because, you know, we had, like, Koreans who worked at our school because they had to help with, like, translating stuff like that. And I'd always be like, all right, bye, like, Becky, have a good weekend. And she'd be like, have a rest. And I was like, that's kind of rude.
Have a rest?
Have a rest. Like, almost like you look tired.
Oh.
Like, and I was like,
I feel like that's...
I look exhausted. Like, why do you keep telling me? And, like, every weekend, she'd be like, have a rest this weekend. Have a rest. And I was like, do I look tired? Like, why do they keep telling me to rest? Uh-huh. And then I found out, like, that's just their way of telling us to relax. Yeah. Like, I hope your weekend's relaxful, or, like, have a good reason, take it easy. Yeah, yes, have a rest. Uh-huh. So now I'm like, now I say it back, because they do it in China, too. So now I say it back, and I think it's great. But when I first got there, I was like, oh my gosh, I must look awful. Like, everyone is telling me I look tired all the time.
I feel like that's better than here, people just saying you look tired.
You look tired.
Like... People are more blunt here. At least they're like sugarcoating it a little bit. They're like, have a rest.
It's still a little hard for me. Sarcasm's not really a thing on that side of the world. Yeah. And so a lot of times people think that I'm mad at them or that I'm serious, and I'm like, I'm joking. Yeah. I constantly, like, now I just tend to end sentences with, I'm just kidding. Because I do tend to be sarcastic.
It's weird how, I mean, just the cultures are so different.
It is.
What did you... Outside of teaching when you were in Korea, like traveling wise, did you explore Korea?
Yeah.
How did you communicate with people?
I have since forgotten all of it in the 2 years I've been gone, but I learned enough Korean to, like, get by.
Okay.
And a lot of people know English there.
Okay.
So many people learn English. Because English is the language of business. So many people know English, especially in Korea. And, but I've been to, like, Busan and to other cities in Korea, and I've been all around Seoul and stuff, and I found, like, translating apps are great. Gotta have Google Translate on your phone. That's awesome. But yeah, I would take the train or the bus, and I'd get, like, my Korean friends to help me, and yeah, I traveled around a lot, around Korea, and then also around Asia, too.
So you went to North Korea, right?
I went to the DMZ, which is the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. Okay, and what was that experience like? It's cool. It's like a tour that you sign up to do. So I'm on, like, a bus tour with a guide. I thought it was super interesting. My favorite was, like, there's all this, like, there's this propaganda video that they make you watch when you go that's like, they could attack at any time! North Korea is coming! Right. And I was like, this is hilarious. But, like, I mean, did you feel people were, like, scared of North Korea? What was, like, the vibe of... So you were in South Korea. I was in South Korea, and right after I got to South Korea, I was there, like, 2 months when Kim Jong-un started kind of, like, I always say that he started acting up. And my dad got super nervous. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. No one knew what I was talking about. Meanwhile, over here in the States, everyone's like, oh no, they're gonna attack. My mom's calling me. My dad's calling me. They're sending me emails. They're like, what's your escape plan? And I was like, what are you talking about? Was that just because stuff wasn't getting relayed on the news? Or, like, how did you not know? No, it just it wasn't getting relayed on the Korean news. So would you say that, it wasn't because he was sending missiles. But he was sending them towards the United States. But, like, everyone was worried, like, everyone back home was worried about people in South Korea. And I was like, we were all like, he's not sending missiles at us, guys. Yeah. He's sending them to you. You should be worried. But does it almost make you think that, like, the U.S. media, like, blew that shit out of proportion? Yes. I told my parents that they had to stop looking at, like, I was like, Mom, you have to stop watching the news. Yeah. I was like, you have to stop. I was like, stop watching the news. I was like, or you have to not worry until I tell you to worry. Yeah. Which is what she does now because she's still obsessed with the news. Yeah. But I was like, don't worry until I tell you to worry because it's being blown up. Like, it's like we're not in a state of emergency over here. Like, nothing is happening. Mm-hmm. How did you keep up with current events? And, like, were you interested in keeping up with American news or other people over there? Keeping up with our Donald Trump situations, stuff like that? Well, I was in China. Well, I was there when he got elected, but I left like soon after that.
Okay.
Like he got elected in November, and I left that February.
Okay.
To go to China,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm very selective. When he was like running and everything, like everyone wants. It is my experience that not so much now because now people are just like, oh, that is how he is. He's crazy. Like no one likes him, who's abroad. But when it was all happening, everyone wanted to talk to me about it, and I was like, I don't talk about it. I was like, I did not elect him. I did not vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, he is not the president I chose.
Doesn't represent
I was like,
you,
I was like, he does not represent me. I was like, I have nothing to say about him, and I will not waste my time.
Mm-hmm.
I choose the way I approach, and it happened I was in an Uber in Manchester or in Preston, and this happened, and he came over the radio, and the guy in the Uber was like, oh, blah, 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 and I was like, I don't talk about him. And then I just leave it at that, because, like, he doesn't deserve my time.
Yeah, I look at it the same way. As like, he's our president, and I respect that he's our president.
Right.
But like, I don't acknowledge that he's our president.
No.
You know, like, if that sort of makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, I know he's our president, but like...
Yeah. I respect the office, doesn't mean I have to respect the man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I will say he makes me look better at Bush, though.
Yeah, but that's not
Which,
saying
that's
much.
not saying much.
Yeah.
But it was the same way when he was president. I was like, I didn't vote for him. He's not, and that's...
It's also sad that that's the case, that like it makes him look better because he's still a terrible president and he still has us in wars or got us into wars that we're still not out of. So like it says something to Donald Trump that he's that bad.
Right.
But George Bush is still bad. So I hate, like, not hate, but like, and George Bush is still a terrible president.
Yeah.
You know, like, I still look at him the same as a shitty fucking president.
Right.
Like they're both bad in their own respects.
Right. It's true. It's very true.
So so you go to China, and you teach in China now.
Yes, I do. I work at an international school, which is very, very different from what I did in Korea.
Okay, so what's the difference? First, I want to know the difference between Korea and China, and then what's the difference in the schools?
So, culturally, I don't see a big difference between Korea and China.
Okay.
To me, it's just Asia.
Yeah, and to me,
it's
as
Eastern Asia,
not knowing anything,
they're very similar. I think of it as like, I'm trying to think of a way to like compare it. Korea is like the classy sibling of China's like rough and tumble, like
just more fast paced, like just
not even just like fast paced, but kind of just like less. Like when you're in Korea, there's less spitting in the street.
So it's like a Chicago to New York sort of thing? Like
I was gonna say more of like a Westchester to like a trailer park.
Oh, so that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I look at New York and Chicago.
Like, I don't know
like,
if you know enough about Rochester, but it kind of be like a Pittsford to a Canandaigua.
No one is gonna know that
I know.
difference.
Think of like the nice suburb to like the trashier suburb.
That's why, like in New York and Chicago, people see New York and there's like garbage on the street and it's just like messy and dirty and rats.
Oh, and Chicago's the nice city.
Clean.
Yes,
like the garbage is underground. Like,
yes, there you go.
You don't see like rodents on the street and stuff like that. That's my interpretation of it.
Or you could do like a New York to a London.
Yes.
Like New York is dirty and like they yell at you, whereas London's like, oh, thank you, oh dear, love, yeah. Yes.
But like
But they both speak English.
But on a pedigree thing, people see China as more like powerful in a sense.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, they got like 1 billion people.
Yeah. So what?
And like so much money.
And what's that like? Is it literally like packed in the streets?
No.
It's not.
I live in one of, I'm going to say a small city. By Chinese standards, I live in a small to medium sized, a smaller city because there are only 14 million of us.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Is the Chinese food phenomenal in China?
Oh my God. It's nothing like here. It's completely different.
Oh, so it's not like I can't go in there and get a chicken and broccoli and sesame
it's
chicken.
Nothing like I eat Chinese food every time I come home, but that's because it's American food. It's not Chinese food.
So what's actual Chinese food?
So actual Chinese food is like you have to go to China to get it. Or you have to go to like a legit, like go into Chinatown, find the little restaurant that makes the specific regional dish.
But what's different about like Chinese food here and actual Chinese food?
So where I am in China is in the Sichuan province.
Okay.
So our food is very spicy. It's a little bit oilier because I use a lot of red oil, which is like a spicy, peppery oil. They use a Sichuan peppercorn, which is like has like the numbing spice, so like it kind of numbs the tip of your tongue and like tingles your lips. Lots of noodles. They do fried rice. Fried rice is like an actual legit Chinese dish.
Yeah.
But a lot of noodles, a lot of like vegetables, a lot of like they don't do like a lot of like full on meat dishes. They'll do dishes that like have a lot of vegetables and then like just a few pieces of meat. But it's very spicy. I think anyways that there's a lot of spice.
Okay. I know China as very like cultural and like a lot of like respect like things. Have you ever come across an issue, like not an issue or a situation where like maybe you didn't bow or you didn't like do something eating wise that was like seen as disrespectful in their eyes?
No, but that's because I looked it up before I went. But there are things that you could do. So like, for example, because you brought up eating, like if you're eating and you're using your chopsticks, when you're done, you never stick them like straight up and down in your food. That's super, super rude and considered, I believe it's because it means death or something, but I could be wrong. I don't remember exactly what it is. I want to say it has something to do with death, but I might be wrong. But you never you always lay them across the top of your bowl, or they'll have like little holders and you put them in the holder next to you. You never stick them into straight up and down in your food.
And is like burping after your meal like seen as respectful or something like that? I thought I heard that once.
I don't know if that's true, but it's definitely something that they just do.
Okay.
It might be. Maybe that's why they're always burping.
And did you feel that everything is pretty cultural, like out there, like anything religious or like big on like history and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. So when you're in Beijing, you can go to like Tiananmen Square where like there was the big protest in the late 80s. And like there, like they have like just a building with like a giant picture of Mao and like people bow in front of it. And like they're very respectful. Chinese people love China. They love Mao. They're super happy with this. Like none of them, at least as far as I've experienced just talking with them and even like teenagers, like when I taught the government class, they were always like, everyone should just do it the Chinese way. They're like, China's got it figured out, just do it the Chinese way. Like, I don't know why you just don't do it the way China does it. China knows what they're doing. Like, they're very
Is that because they're being fed that information?
I don't know. I don't, like, because I'm not in the Chinese schools, so I don't know. But...
Because, like, we've always been brought up that, like, all these presidents were great people and, like, everything was, like outside of like slavery and all this stuff that like, but then you learn these things about presidents that had slaves and like, so it's like you're not always being taught all of these great things. So it's just interesting that selective. Like all these people are being taught these things and they don't have maybe an outlet like we do, like Google or something to do research.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, I mean, censorship is massive in China. Like there's so much, I don't even think like there's so much censorship. It took me 2 years to explain to my dad that like, Dad, you can't use Facebook to talk to me. And he's like, I don't understand. What do you mean they don't have Facebook? I go, when I am in China, if I try to pull up my app that is downloaded on my phone, it tells me that the internet is not working.
Which is crazy that they have that much control over all the people, you know?
Oh, they very blatantly listen into my conversations. I'll be on the phone and you'll hear like a little ding, and that's just them tuning into my conversation.
Really?
I just like, but they're not secretive about it.
I mean, we do the same thing.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's like, but the United States government isn't gonna like let you know, like, hey, I'm listening into your conversation. No, they're just gonna do it. China's just like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll talk quieter as I listen into your Skype conversation. Like, they're just like, no, of course we're tracking you. You need your passport to download an app for share bikes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Of course they're like, I carry my passport with me in China because they need, like, I have to. I'm told when I get there that I have to have my passport on me at all times.
Wow.
Like, I know I'm being listened to. I know they're tracking my movement. They're not secretive about it, though. So it's like, it's the kind of thing like, I'm choosing to go there, and they're like, hey, you're coming here. This is what we're going to do. And you're like, cool, I'm agreeing to that.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know?
And do you feel it's worth it? Like, are you happy with that lifestyle?
I'm fine with it. I also, like, there's nothing illegal that I need to be doing.
Yeah, and I get that. But do you sort of start to, like, conform to that thinking that, like, hey, they're looking in on my stuff, I'm not doing anything wrong. Whereas, like, maybe over here, I'm like, that's a little weird.
It is. No, it is. And, like, I told you, like, when you first got this channel, you were like, oh, we should do a show together. And I was like, well, we need to wait till I'm on American soil because I'm not going to do it when I'm in China. I don't know what they're, like, they might get mad at me.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, you can't, like, but, like, Chinese people in general won't say anything bad against China, and they get offended when you do. Because and that's pride in their country. There's Americans who get very upset when you say stuff against America.
Do you feel there's more Chinese people that get mad?
Yes.
Like, I feel like there's like the Trump population or a small minority of Americans that it's like, don't disrespect the flag and don't do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Is it more prevalent over there? Is there more, like, Chinese pride?
Yes. I find it, the thing that I found very interesting, though, that I found out is, like, they don't wear their flag. Like, you'll never see, like, a t-shirt with a Chinese, like... I mean, like, you'll see, like, the jerseys that has, like, the actual flag. But I'm talking, like, you know, people who have, like... the whole shirt
Born
is...
in the USA,
like, it's half stripes, half flag.
What do you think that is? Why?
I don't know. It's like, don't disrespect the flag, but you're going to put them on your boxers? Put them next to your junk? Like, that seems pretty foul.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Do you see yourself staying in China or overseas? Because, like, the vision, I guess, when you graduated college was see yourself being a New York City teacher and staying there for as long as you know. Did that change now to abroad?
Well, when I originally moved to Korea, it was only supposed to be for 2 years. And it was only supposed to be Korea. And then 4 years later, after living in Korea for 4 years, I moved to China. So, and even when I decided to leave Korea, I was like, I'll go anywhere in the world except China. And then I ended up in China. So I have stopped deciding where I'm going to end up. And just am like, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I am trying to leave China after this school year. So, like, with my school, you can transfer to other schools. So I am trying.
And you're open to go, like, to Middle East, like.
I will not go to the Middle East.
Oh, you won't. Oh, sorry.
Not because I have no problem with, like, the culture or anything. It's just too hot.
Oh, okay.
I'm already over summer, and it hasn't even been that hot since I've been here, and I'm already past it.
Yeah.
I'm over it. I need it to be done. If summer could just be, like, the last 3 weeks of June, I'd be good with it. So it's too hot. It's too hot for me to move to the Middle East. However, we have schools in countries that have winter for, like, 10 months of the year, so I'm aiming for those places.
Okay.
I'm like, give me all the snow. I will go teach in Antarctica. Like, I just need a blanket.
Anyone from Antarctica is listening.
Yeah.
Do you miss like American culture sometimes?
Yeah.
And just, like,
I do.
What's the biggest thing you miss when you're abroad? Like, did something? I mean, I'm sure you don't miss any of, like, the school shootings and all this stuff that's happening.
I don't miss having to be on constant, like I saw, like, 4 cops today and almost had, like, a heart attack. I was like, oh my God, is this the day? So I don't miss that. I don't miss having to wonder who has a gun around me. I do miss, like, I miss being able to just, like, turn on the TV and watch anything. I miss being able to just go to Walmart, just get stuff. I miss, like, if I want, I feel like ice cream. I want, like, a tub of, like, Ben and Jerry's, and just being able to go to the store.
What makes it difficult out there to get there? Just there's not as much stores?
Well, I don't eat meat, so that's
not
like,
eating wise,
hard.
but, like, is it just we have more, like, I feel like products would be super cheap there, and they'd have just huge retail stores also.
You would think so. You would think so, but a lot of the products that China makes are shipped out of China.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah. So, like even, like school supplies. Like, I wanted, like, dry erase markers. Like, I want, like, multicolored ones. Like, I get those here when I come home. Like, my suitcase right now to go back is, like, full of school supplies because there's so many, like, little things for, like, elementary school that I can't get in China.
Yeah, it's
like,
interesting.
Books. I would love, like, a bookstore. Like, I went into, like, 6 bookstores in Manchester just because I was like, oh my God, it's a bookstore. Like, can't go in. We don't have bookstore. Well, they do, but they're full of, like, Chinese books. I can't get, like, kids books. Like, the library. Oh, I miss a library.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting just because it's so easy to get things in bulk here for cheap that come from China that you would think it would just be super easy to get that in China when it's really not.
Yeah. Even like shoes.
Yeah.
Like that's the other thing, like size wise, because obviously I'm not a petite Chinese Asian woman. Like if I need a pair of sneakers, I have to get like men's shoes because they don't make women's shoes in big enough sizes for me. Like if I need clothes, I have to like order them and get my mom to send them to me.
How is that? Like, because like you said, a lot of Chinese women or Korean women are just small, tiny, petite women.
Yeah.
And you're taller.
Yeah.
Like, do you get dirty looks or anything like that? Is it like,
I'm not
why
sure.
aren't you a tiny gymnast or something?
I might still. I know I did when I first got to Korea, but I stopped noticing because I kind of just leaned into it. I kind of dress like a living version of Miss Frizzle. So like I'll go out like in the wintertime if it's cold and I'm like in my house and wearing a onesie, I'll just wear it out. Like I've gone to dinner and like
But I feel like that's been embraced in their culture too. Like I see all these like K-pop groups and like these like
but
Asian girls.
Like, famous people do that. Not like your regular day-to-day people.
Oh really?
Yeah, not so much.
I feel like they're not like eccentric in what they wear, like
more
skirts
so in
and
Korea.
Weird... Oh, okay.
More so in Korea than they are in China. China's more like, as far as like dress and style wise, China's slightly more conservative.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always known them as like
Korea's out there. Like I love going back. Like I went back to Korea twice this past year, and I loved going back and like I was like, oh, I just love Korean fashion. It's so different.
Yeah, I mean they're always I feel like they're a huge trendsetter to a lot of the things. Like anytime if I see a Korean person in New York City and they want me to take a picture on their phone, they've got some crazy cool phone case
but
and like
even in Korea, and this is true in China, is like you will get those eccentric styles and those out there things, but those are always the students, which are they're not in my neighborhood. I don't live near a university.
Okay.
You find them a lot in like university areas.
What is do you miss your family?
I do. FaceTime is a lifesaver though, so that super helps. Like Nix and I immediately were like best friends because there was none of that awkward like, who are you? I've never met you, because I FaceTime her like once a week. So
I'll do a couple just questions here.
Yeah.
Where's your most favorite place you've traveled to?
My most favorite place I've traveled to?
How many different places have you been to, first off?
That's a lot. Let's see. So Korea, China, the UK, Cambodia, Philippines, Vietnam, India, Israel, Caribbean, 15, 16 countries, I think.
It's a pretty good passport.
I love Vietnam. I've been twice, both times for a month, 3.5 weeks.
What makes a place better than not better in your eyes? Like, why is Vietnam better than somewhere else?
So it has to have a couple things. Number one is the food. Vietnam food is amazing. So number one is the food. Number two is the scenery. And number three is the people. The food in Vietnam is amazing. Everyone in Vietnam is super nice. There's so much to see in Vietnam. They have nature, they have beaches, they have mountains, and they have history because of the Vietnam War. They have monks, they have temples, they have modern and old. It's awesome. It's such like, they have so many different things. It's amazing. So I love Vietnam. I love Malaysia. Malaysia is a lot of fun. Again, nice people, awesome food, lots to see. Cambodia was nice. Don't need to go back. Bali was not bad. Their food was okay. I think as far in Asia, I think it's a tie between Malaysia and Vietnam. I've been to both several times. I like them both a lot. In the western area of the world, London, UK, Britain, England, favorite place.
How often are you getting asked by people like what your nationality is or something when you're somewhere in Asia?
Surprisingly not a lot. They just assume. Yeah,
they'll just assume you are where you are.
They just assume I'm Filipino.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever play along with that?
No.
Okay, good. Because I know Molly would say when she was in New York City, people would think she's Dominican or Puerto Rican and just automatically.
I learned how to say I'm not Dominican, I'm black in Spanish real quick when we lived in Harlem.
Okay. What books are you reading right now?
What am I reading right now? I just finished a series that takes place in 1830s Scotland and England, and it's about a widow whose husband was an anatomist and forced her to draw like his diagrams. So she's all scandalous after he dies, but now she's a mystery solver. And she does that with her new husband. But that was 7 books. I just finished the first, it's the Lady Darby mystery series. So I just finished that. I started The Beekeeper's Apprentice this week.
And how do you find out about these books? Where
Goodreads, the internet, Google searches, suggestions. Books, I read so much, books get suggested for me.
And briefly, if you can briefly, talk about Harry Potter and your obsession with Harry Potter.
I mean, I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I love Harry Potter.
What is it about Harry Potter that...
I read the books. I reread the series every year. I don't read the first and second one anymore because they're not my favorite. I just watch the movies. But I just love it. So last summer I went around the UK, England, and Scotland. And I hit all the Harry Potter places. Went to all the places that J.K. Rowling did her writing and got her ideas, and Edinburgh, and did all that, which was really awesome. And then I did the studio tour, and I did the walking tours and everything in London. And
Universal has that now.
I know, I haven't been yet.
Okay.
I haven't been yet. I'm thinking maybe next summer I might do the States.
Have you ever
I'd like to go.
Thought about writing your own book?
Absolutely not.
No?
I hate writing.
Oh, really?
I don't enjoy it.
I feel like you would have an interesting, I feel like you have an interesting mind if you had somebody write the book for you.
If
it was like Doreen's book.
Maybe. If I get like a ghostwriter.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. Or like a talk to text thing.
Yeah, that could work too.
I just don't like sitting down and writing. I don't enjoy it.
Sort of wrapping it up, what's next for you? Like what's on your bucket list?
For what?
Things to do.
I mean, right now all I can think about is just getting my in grad school again. I just want to wrap that up. I'll be done in May, so I'm just like, wrap it up. Let's do this.
But nothing like world traveling wise that like is on your bucket list. Like some people have Australia.
I want to dive. So I've gotten into diving over the past year and a half, and I'm really into scuba diving. Okay. And I really want to do a dive trip to Australia and New Zealand.
So start in like Japan and do a dive trip to...
Yeah, I'm just going to swim. I'm going to jump in Japan and just swim over. My ultimate bucket list, I want to go to Antarctica. You can do it. They do cruises there. I'm dying to go.
Do people live on Antarctica?
No, but you can go visit there.
Yeah, you should go before everything melts over there.
I know. I got to go before it falls into the ocean and just turns to liquid. I want to go meet some penguins.
Thoughts on Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
I love her.
She came out and I guess said a quote about
I'm obsessed.
The former Supreme Court justice passed away.
Oh yeah, I don't remember, but I know his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and was basically just like, he said I wasn't going to be here, and now he's dead, and I'm still here.
Keep it up. She's going to live forever. Her and Maxine Waters. I just would love to meet both of them. Yeah, I hope she stays,
because Trump would then have to appoint 3 people, which is crazy. Anything that I've missed that you want to touch upon?
No, not really.
You think this was okay?
I think it was good. It was good. I would come back whenever. I enjoyed it.
Your voice rose. It was like the movie I Love You Man when you asked how...
I don't know.
Like, it was good.
It was good.
Like your voice went up.
It was really
So I don't think she think this went well.
No, I do. It did go well. I loved it. It's funny that you quoted a movie because my mom used to hate it because me, Max, and Otis would have full conversations in movie quotes. And she'd be like, don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Your favorite movie?
My favorite movie... I mean, outside of the Harry Potter series, obviously. Right now, my favorite movie is Instant Family.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Which I'm obsessed with. I bought it on Amazon. I've seen it at least 8 times, and every time I watch it,
it goes back to the adoption kid
I go,
thing.
I gotta become a foster parent now, is how I always end that movie.
Yeah, they didn't want any, and then they ended up with
3.
4 or 3.
That's I watch that movie and I see myself and I'm like, I'm gonna move back to the States and end up with 3 tiny children in my house, and I don't even want children.
First thing you craved when you came back to the States?
Chipotle.
Oh, really?
Always.
So there's no Chipotles?
Nope. No
Chipotle. You gotta get on
I know.
There's gotta be something similar.
There's something similar. It's called Good. It's not good.
It's not the same?
No, it's not the same, but... Yeah, it's Chipotle all the time. People are like, what are you going to get as soon as you get back to the States? I'm like, Chipotle. I don't even have to think about it.
I don't know what if I was living abroad for a while, I feel like
I've had it
a
4
White
times since I've
Castle
been
burger
here.
or something like that. Yeah, White Castle or like just I don't know. Who knows? Well, thanks for watching.
It's Chipotle and vegan ice cream is what I get when I come home.
Chipotle and vegan ice cream and like a Trader Joe's trip.
Oh yes.
All right. Well, that's Doreen.
Bye.
Ask her questions.
Yes.
She'll respond. Hopefully, unless she's in China, maybe not.
We'll see. I got some time. I'm not going back yet. I got some time.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Peace out.